days, which is today and tomorrow at 2:30. So before we start, let us all recite the Kitab Al-Fatihah. For your information, the objectives of this workshop are to expose teachers to current CFR aligned SPM format and also to give insight into some question answering techniques. So today we are focusing on paper 1, reading, and the use of English, as well as paper 2, writing. So to begin with the first agenda, I would like to invite the Principal of SMK Taman Sri Saujana, Pengajar Asya binti Mama Uzair as penerusi PSKD Bahasa Inggeris Sekolah Menengah Daerah Kota Tinggi for an opening speech. Please welcome.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh dan salam sejahtera. Terima kasih pada Cikgu Nora Fazira sebagai selaku pengurusi majlis pada hari ini. Okey, yang dihormati Puan Suryani Peti Selamat, pegawai PPD Bahasa Inggeris, seterusnya ketua-ketua panitia dan guru-guru Bahasa Inggeris daerah Kota Tinggi, juga Cikgu Zarid sebagai setiausaha PSKD daerah Kota Tinggi. Okey, alhamdulillah kita hari ini kita dapat melaksanakan salah satu daripada tugas kita, tanggungjawab kita sebagai seorang guru untuk menjadikan kita sebagai guru berkualiti. Guru berkualiti yang mana salah satu daripada elemen dalam PPM dan juga dalam TS25, iaitu bila kita sebagai guru berkualiti maka kita akan menghasilkan salah satu yang paling utama dalam TS25 dalam PPM ialah kemenjadian murid. Okey, jadi alhamdulillah, tahniah dan terima kasih kepada PPD, Puan Suryani, pada cikgu-cikgu, semua cikgu-cikgu Bahasa Inggeris yang telah pun bersama-sama menyertai Bengkel Pembugaran format baru SPM 2021 ini. Terutama sekali untuk mata pelajaran Bahasa Inggeris. Kita tahu format bagi tahun 2021 ni format yang baru. Format baru yang mana tak langsung dia berbeza sangat dengan format 2020. Dia ni bermula dengan KSSM, jadi bermula 2021. Jadi anak-anak pelajar kita ni kita tahu dia akan menghadapi masalah dia untuk menguasai, terutamanya menguasai untuk format-format yang kita tahu bahawa kertas SPM Bahasa Inggeris ini terpecah kepada 4 bahagian, betul 4 bahagian? Kertas 1, kertas 2, kertas 3 dan kertas 4 jadi bila 4 itu semuanya dia akan nilai. Nilai itu maksudnya dia akan memberikan markah kepada anak-anak pelajar ni semua. Jadi kat situ yang kita nak tahu kat mana anak-anak pelajar kita mahir. Mahir kertas 1, mahir kertas 2, kertas 3 ataupun kertas 4. Sedangkan untuk dia menjadi pelajar yang cemerlang, dia kena mahir ke semua kertas itu kan. Jadi sebab itulah, jadi terima kasihlah, ini inisiatif yang sangat baik sangat baiklah pada saya. Bila PPD telah pun mencadangkan untuk kita buat bengkel ini untuk memberikan pendedahan awal kepada rakan-rakan guru. Nanti barulah kita berikan kepada anak-anak pelajar. Dan kita tahu bahawa yang utama sekali sebagai guru ini kita kena menguasai. Yang pertama sekali sebelum kita menguasai kita punya pedagogi kita memang kena menguasai pertama. Yang kedua kita kena menguasai apa DSKP. DSKP yang terbaru sekarang ni yang untuk SSM ni, itu guru-guru kena menguasai terlebih dahulu. Bila guru-guru dapat menguasai DSKP, jadi daripada DSKP itulah nanti kita boleh melaksanakan pentaksiran. Jadi pentaksiran 4 kertas itu. Jadi kalau cikgu memang dah menguasai DSKP tak ada masalah. Di mana yang kita boleh fokus, tajuk mana, konten mana, kandungan mana yang mana memfokuskan kepada peperiksaan yang sebenar. Walaupun kita tahu bahawa keseluruhan DSKP yang dibuat itu untuk peperiksaan, tetapi ada kadang-kadang certain mana-mana bahagian yang memang difokuskan mungkin untuk peperiksaan SPM. Dan kalau macam bahasa ni saya tak berapa mahir sangat bahasa ni. Saya tahu kalau bahasa dia memang kemahiran, bila kemahiran tu memang dia akan menguji keseluruhan. Tapi kalau subjek-subjek yang fakta, dia akan lebih kepada format-format yang tingkatan 4 dia fokusnya. Fokusnya tingkatan 4, contohnya kalau macam perniagaan, dia akan lebih, kalau yang baru kalau baru dia nak bermula macam ni peperiksaan, dia akan fokus kepada tingkatan 4. Tu yang memang tu pengalaman lah, saya kongsi pengalaman pengalaman bagaimana soalan SPM 2018 perniagaan dahulu. Bila SPM macam ni dia ikut SSM yang baru, lebih 70% soalan adalah berformat daripada tingkatan 4. Dia ambil daripada semua di SKP tingkatan 4. Hanya 30% ataupun 20% saja daripada tingkatan 5. Jadi nanti mungkin nanti penceramah boleh memberikan di mana yang kita boleh fokus untuk guru-guru, nanti kita fokus kepada pelajar-pelajar, di mana aspek yang kita boleh memberikan penekanan kepada anak-anak pelajar kita untuk tahun pertama, soalan pertama SPM 2021. Saya harap gitulah Jadi nanti mohon pada rakan-rakan guru semua, nanti kalau contohnya kita belum lagi dapat menguasai keseluruhan di SKP, kita kena nak mengajar tu kena buka cikgu, buka sama-sama duduk sebelah kitab kita tu di SKP. Mana tajuk, mana konten, mana kandungan yang mana kita boleh fokus, kat situ yang kita boleh berikan perhatian Jadi di SKP perlu nanti pentaksiran juga kena banyakkan pentaksiran. Contohnya pentaksiran ujian kita kena buat sikit-sikit, mesti ada. Kita kena juga menilai pelajar kita dari lagi nanti ada mungkin akhir bulan 10 akan ada percubaan SPM. Ada percubaan SPM, jadi kat situ kita boleh menilai anak kita daripada anak-anak pelajar kita daripada sekarang kita cuba latih tubi mereka dengan format-format yang baru ini. Jadi saya mengharapkan moga rakan-rakan guru akan mendapat input, mendapat ilmu yang sangat berguna untuk anak-anak seterusnya pada diri kita dan juga kepada kita boleh berikan kepada anak-anak pelajar SPM 2021 sekolah masing-masing. Jadi saya lepas ni mungkin saya tak bersama kot nanti teruskan program ni. Kalau ada program lain mungkin yang boleh kita sama-sama bincang nanti, insyaAllah saya akan berbincang dengan PPD dan juga dengan rakan-rakan yang lain. Maka kita akan cuba juga untuk membuat program-program khas untuk anak-anak pelajar kita, yang mana kita tahu bahawa subjek bahasa Inggeris ini adalah satu subjek yang agak kritikal Memang kita tahu bahawa Kota Tinggi ni majoriti anak-anak pelajar ialah bahasa orang Melayu. Bila orang Melayu ni penguasaan mereka pada bahasa Inggeris tu agak lemah. Dia bukan melemah apa, dia kurang keyakinan diri. Macam saya lah, kurang keyakinan diri untuk saya bercakap dalam bahasa Inggeris. Takut salah, malu gitu kan. Jadi malunya tu banyak sangat. Sampai nak cakap bahasa Inggeris pun takutnya macam tu, segam Sebenarnya kalau itulah kita nak wujudkan keyakinan diri itu kepada anak-anak pelajar kita, itu cabaran yang paling besar untuk daerah Kota Tinggi ni. Jadi kita sama-sama kita cubalah membudayakan bahasa Inggeris ini dalam sekolah kita, anak-anak pelajar kita dan seterusnya. Saya cuba juga nanti saya cuba belajar juga untuk speaking in English lah. Walaupun tak pandai, nanti saya tanya dengan Cikgu Zarid, tanya dengan Cikgu Nora kan, macam mana saya nak speak in English kan, macam tu. Jadi mudah-mudahan program ini dapat membantu cikgu-cikgu dan juga membantu anak-anak pelajar. Saya rasa itu saja, saya tak boleh cakap banyak-banyak. Nanti program nak mula, nanti lambat nak habis Okay, terima kasih. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you Puan Haja Asia for the warm opening speech. Now I would like to introduce the speaker for this 2 days workshop, Puan Atika binti Ismail. Puan Atika graduated from Canterbury Christchurch University, UK, class of 2014. In 2015 until 2018, she taught at SMA Al-Khairiyah Segamat. From 2018 until now, she is teaching at SM Science Kota Tinggi. Puan Atika is a CEFR Master Trainer since 2016, a published author for Malaysian English Language Teaching Association, MELTA, panelist for various JPNJ English language programs, subject matter expert for openlearning.com, and also part of Southeast SPM English language team. Without further ado, please welcome our speaker, Puan Atika binti Ismail.
Hi, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good afternoon, I think, to everyone. Thank you Puan Nora for such generous introduction. First of all, I think it is such an honor to have Puan Haja Asia binti Muhammad Zair, the principal of SMK Taman Sri Sarjana, as the chairman of Kota Tinggi English Language Secondary School for carving out her busy schedule to open for our program today. I'd also like to express my gratitude to PSKD Bahasa Inggeris, Sekolah Menengah Kota Tinggi and BPD Kota Tinggi for inviting me to share a little knowledge that I have for this Bengkel Pembugaran for Mabaru SPM 2021. Mind you, this is a sharing session. I'm not trying to teach you because you're all very good at that already. It's just me trying to refresh your knowledge, and perhaps you already been through this training last year, I think, 2020. But again, everything was quite rushed. So I hope this could be a good stepping stone for you in helping your students in preparing them for SPM 2021. Right, so much for introduction. I think I'm just going to go through with the input that I have prepared today. All right, okay, so this is the slides that I've prepared for today. So again, thank you to PPD, thank you to SMK Taman Sri Sarjana for having me. Right, we are going straight through reading part 1. Okay, reading part 1 and sorry, paper 1. Right, so paper 1, total marks that we are going to have is 40. And for paper 1 in reading, we have 1.5 hours. Okay, so it's not that long, I think, for 40 for papers that have 40 marks. Okay, so meaning to say that some texts need more synthesis from students, so that they need more time in certain section compared to the others. So it's very important that they need to they know how to manage their time. Okay, so as we mentioned by the Puan Pengetua just now, for CEFR, we have the same weightage for all the papers. Although they have different total marks, the weightage is going to be the same. It's 25% for reading skill, 25% for writing skill, 25% for speaking skills, and 25% for listening skills. I think this should not come as a surprise if you have been teaching PT3, because this has been practiced for PT3 level as well. This is just a continuation of the PT3 level that we did for them, I think in 2000, for this batch is 2018, I think. Okay, so this is the English paper, reading skill 25%, writing, speaking, and also listening. Okay, so please remember they have the same weightage. Do not take any of those skills for granted. All of them need to be developed adequately so that our students can survive the SPM, the new SPM format. Okay, so for reading, okay, the level that we are aiming for, I mean the level of the assessment is B1 to B2. Okay, so if you can see that from the GSKP, B2 is for independent user, right? So B2 is upper intermediate. For B2, it's about understanding the main ideas of a complex text on both concrete and abstract text, right? I'm not going to go in detail of what's concrete, what's abstract, because it's all in your DSKP. You need to look back at it so that you know what it's about. But the first thing that we test out for reading is main ideas. The second one is can interact with a degree of fluency and spontaneity that makes regular interaction with native speakers. So this one is for speaking, as well as for listening as well. And can produce clear, detailed text on a wide range of subjects and explain a viewpoint on the topical issue, giving the advantages and disadvantages of various options. This is quite heavily for writing paper. So we are going to see that later after the reading section. Okay, so if you have any questions somewhere during the presentation, because this is a Google Meet, you can always turn on your mic and ask your questions, because it's better to have this session as interactive as possible. Okay, right. So for reading paper, there are 5 parts altogether. Okay, so for the first part is 3 option multiple choice. Okay, so for the first part, only 8 questions, so 8 marks. But because it's a short text, please be reminded that they are only for 90 words. The questions only have 90 words on them. Okay, so this is important, especially when you are trying to build items or design question papers for your students. Okay, the words is going to be only 90 words, and it has only 3 option multiple choice items. Okay, that's part 1. Part 2, there are 4 option multiple choice clues. Okay, so this text is going to be longer in part 2, And part 2 has quite the resemblance like in our previous format of SPM paper in the grammar part right after the multiple choice questions. Okay, so we do have that for SPM CEFR as well. So the text is going to be longer. It's 250 to 300 words. And they have 10 items removed. Okay, it could be vocabulary, it could be grammar, or it could be connectors. So it's depending on the gaps on the items that it's being removed. And compared to the first part, there are 4 possible options for each item. So A, B, C, D. Part 1 is A, B, C. Okay. For part 3, again, another 4 option multiple choice. Okay. So this is longer. Okay. This is, I think, the part that most of our students familiar with. Okay. So this is where students will answer comprehension questions, the normal comprehension questions that they normally answer. Okay, so they will have a text and then 4 option multiple choice. Okay, so for an extended text, if you are building items, please remember that the range of words is 650 to 700 words. Okay, for gap text, right? So this is something that you have seen in PT3 as well. So again, it's an extended text, 350 to 450 words, 6 questions, just like in PT3, but the text is longer. Okay, 6 sentences removed and placed in jumble order after the text. Okay, that is gap text. For part 5, there are various texts with total word count no longer than 370 words. Okay, for part 5, this is an information transfer. It's not that far from SPM, but they had a little bit of tweaking whereby for part 5, the first part, question, I think 27 to 40, I think it's more on the main point. The first part is the main point, finding the main point of the text. However, the second part, which is the last part of the reading paper, it's you trying to find the right words for the blanks that they have presented. So meaning to say that the blanks that they have presented needs to be followed. The words that they have that we need to choose needs to follow the grammar rule. So that is the tricky part for our students, especially for the struggling ones. Okay. So for the last part in part 5, the second part in part 5, the students need to be able to understand if they find the word to, so they need to find basic form of words or root word to go with the blank that's there. Or if they find the word, for example, verbs like are, and then they need to add ing on the words for the blank there. So that is very tricky for our students, even for the good ones, because that can all the answers in the text can easily track students. So I think when it comes to reading, those are the things that you need to look up for. Okay, right. So that was the parts in reading. So I'm going to go through with what we as teachers can do when we want to prepare ourselves to teach our students. Okay, right. So the first thing that I will address is that how do we tackle reading questions and how do we build the questions or items? Okay, so that is very important because as teachers, we sometimes need to assess our students' ability, our students' level, and we need to have the skill of building items. And plus, because this is very new, although we have already books in the market that can help us, I think it's better for us to actually produce our questions based on the SKP, based on the textbook that we have, so that our students are better prepared. Okay. Okay, let me just. Okay, for the first part, 3 option multiple choice short text. This one I've explained just now. Number of items is 8. Okay, so 8 short text of no more than 90 words per text, each followed by 1 3 option multiple choice item. Okay. So how do we choose good text? Okay, so this is important when you are trying to build item for your students. Okay, so when you choose text types, okay, besides from using all the books in the market, or even using the workbook that they have for our English download as well as for Full Blast, we can also find our own text, that if we feel that the text in the full blast or English download, or you need to some sort of a change. So when you are choosing text, you need to know that you need to check if the text is true factual. True factual here means that if the text is rich with jargons, for example, if the text has a medical terms, or if the text has very technical terms of engineering, then it is not suitable for our students. Although sometimes the words are of the CEFR level, which is from B1 to B2, try to refrain yourself from choosing that kind of text. Okay, because again, it's going to be very difficult for our students to comprehend them. And B, is the language too complex? Because some texts, they have a way of explaining meanings, or perhaps trying to convey meanings by using such complex sentences. You know, with all this perhaps ing at the front, perhaps with the experimental of using infinitive to at the front. Those are quite complex structure, I would say. So if you found that kind of text, do not give that to your students. Just don't. Okay. Next one, if you found a text, you ask yourself, can it be understood even without the visuals? If only with words, can you understand the text? Okay. And last one, this is quite self-explanatory. Is it touching any sensitive issues? Religion, race, ethnics, those things need to be avoided. Politics should be off way of the table. Okay? And then the text length. I've already mentioned that for part 1, there are how many words. Part 2, how many words that is expected. Part 3, 4, and 5. So if you're trying to build your questions, please be mindful of the text length. And then you need to, after you have acquired number 1 and number 2, step 3 is you need to check the text level. So the text level is, you can check from the text inspector, meaning that you have to copy all the text that you have chosen, put them in this software of course text inspector. Later I'll share you the link. And then in this text inspector, it will tell you what level of the majority of the words in the text. So if, let's say, the words is quite good, meaning to say that if the text is pitched at the right level, meaning to say that all the words are between A2 until B2, you're safe. But if they have certain words of C1 or C2, perhaps you need to replace them. Okay? And number 4, is 3 multiple choice questions possible with the text? So meaning, is it, if you choose one text, can you find the 3 possible multiple choice questions? Would that be possible? Okay, if you can't, then you cannot use that text. And lastly, of course, you need to have a clear key. Okay, so that is how you choose good text for your students in building items for exams, right? Okay, so for testing focus, for I think reading and listening, it falls under details. Of course, this is something that they always tested upon for us. Number 2, main ideas, writer's or author's purpose, writer's attitude, and meaning of words. Okay, so it could be words, it could be expression. So these are the testing focus that you need to look out for when you are trying to build items for your students. Okay. Okay, let's move on. How to improve pupils' reading comprehension, part 1. Okay, so I always tell my students, just don't read the text first, because part 1 is quite graphic. You know what I mean? It's not like part 3 where everything is just one long coherent text that makes you feel like that's a lot of words. So for part 1, it's something that you can have fun and play around with. Okay, so do not read the text first. Okay, you look at the frame, the part around and outside of the text, and think about where would you see it. Because it's normally about advertisement. It's normally about iMessage, or perhaps email or WhatsApp from a friend to another. So let them see the graphics first before delving deeper into the question. Okay, after they have seen all those, they can start reading the question and underline the important words. Okay. They can also, after that, read the text and decide if the text is a personal text or a text for public. Okay, this is very important when it comes to this for step 3, because for step 3 is students identifying normally if the question is asking the purpose of the text. So if let's say an advertisement or perhaps a flyer on a student's bulletin board, what would the purpose be? Okay, so is it to advertise? Is it to make the sales of whatever organization that's there increasing, or what? Okay, so number 3 is very important in getting the students understand the purpose of the text. And last one, they need to read the options and choose the one that shows the answers the question. Okay, that is self-explanatory lah. Okay. All right, let's look at the examples of the questions. I think you have seen this already. If you're Form 4 and Form 5 teachers, you have been doing this for quite some time now. Okay, so let's just have a little of refreshers course with it. Okay, right. So this is how your students should approach the text. Okay, so number 1, okay, they will look at the step 1 is look around the text. They are not reading the text yet. So it's actually an advertisement. Okay, perhaps on the T box, because as you can see there, the text is tea is a work of art and requires a master to draw out its best qualities, claimed Okakura in his famous book of tea. Okay, so this is advertisement. Right. Number 2, we are moving on to step 2. Step 2 is the reading the question. Okay, so the question is, the purpose of the advertisement is, okay, so they are looking for the purpose. Okay, sebab, mengapa, okay, why is this advertisement being put up here? All right. Step 3 is understanding, notifying, or even realizing if the text is for personal or public use. And in this case, of course, if this is an advertisement, it's going to be for public. All right. So now we are moving to step 4. They need to choose the correct answer. Okay. The correct answer is, let's look at the option A, to introduce a new tea product. B, to tell consumers how to identify good tea. And C, to improve the sales of tea from the highlands. Okay, so after they have read the advertisement, we at the Good Morning Tea follow the same tradition, allowing tea drinkers to appreciate the art of tea in its purest form. With characteristics of the finest highland teas, our latest tea has been perfected. Right, so let's look at the purpose, the choices there. Number 1, to introduce a new tea product. Okay, this is quite possible. Okay, because it's mentioned who they are and what they do. Okay. How about B, to tell consumers how to identify good tea. Okay, so when we say how, meaning to say that there would be what we call a specific procedure that we need to follow in order to know how good tea would look like, or would have the characteristics of. Okay, so in this case, are there any steps presented in the text? Okay, I don't think so. We didn't see any of the specific steps in recognizing good tea. Okay, let's look at C. To improve the sales of tea from the highlands. Okay, this is quite a good distractor for this one, because it's already mentioned that it is an advertisement. So an advertisement could be about trying to improve sales. Okay, so how do we differentiate between A and C? Okay, so C is to improve sales. Okay, thus the tone of the text is heavy in promoting the tea. Okay, the tone means that what kind of language that this author used in promoting the tea. Does he or she use perhaps persuasive language, like perhaps punctuation of exclamation mark, or perhaps capital or uppercase of words, trying to persuade people. So does that happen in the text? Okay, so let's look at the answer. So of course the answer is A, to introduce a new tea product. So meaning to say, as you can see there for this question, there are only 61 words, right? So the introduction is very clear here. We at the Good Morning Tea Company follow the same tradition, allowing tea drinkers to appreciate the art of tea in its purest form. Okay, so that's how they introduce the new tea product. Okay, all right, let's move on to the next question. okay, this is something different. Okay, just now was the text was quite for public. Okay, let's look at the first one. Okay, where do you normally say, so when you are teaching your students, you ask them, where do you normally see all this? Where do you normally see this text? Okay, so if you can see all these bubbles, dialogue bubbles, okay, they normally see this in their text message, or perhaps on WhatsApp, on Telegram, or iMessage. Okay, so number 2, they are looking for details now. Which of the following statements is true? Okay, so that is the keyword. And number 3, students look back at the text, decide whether this is for public or personal use, because this is a text message. Definitely this is for personal use. And number 4, let's choose the questions or the options that is correct to answer the question. Okay, so let's look at A. Julie and Nick are both affected by the traffic. Okay, and B. Julie will get the tickets while waiting for Nick. And C. Julie and Nick decide to watch a later movie. Okay, so for A, definitely Julie and Nick were affected by traffic because Julie mentioned that, Nick mentioned, Julie, give me 10 minutes, traffic is terrible. Okay, and then Julie replied, I only got here 5 minutes ago. So meaning to say that she was affected by the traffic as well. Okay, did Julie want to get the tickets for Nick? Let's see. Julie replied, it's fine, I'll get snacks. The adverts usually last for more than a few times anyway. Okay, so Julie will get the snacks, not the ticket. So both decided to stick with the plan. Is it true that Julie and Nick want to watch a later movie? There's no such thing as B. Decided that. Okay, so as you can see there, that's how you try to find the correct answer. Okay, you eliminate the wrong ones first. For B, Julie will get snacks rather than tickets. And C, Julie and Nick decide to watch a later movie, which is wrong because they are going to watch the same movie anyways. And the correct one is A. Julie and Nick are both affected by the traffic. So if you can see from the questions, the example questions that I gave you just now, it's very important that the students know how to find information or perhaps the detail that they are looking for. Okay, it's very important. And the skill of eliminating the wrong ones from the correct ones is also important. So please bear that in mind when you are preparing your students for reading paper. Okay, now we're moving to part 1. I'm just going to check if there's any question in the chat section. Okay, no questions so far. Right, so again, if you have any questions, just type them away in the chat section so that I can address them accordingly. Okay, so for part 2, reading and use of English, right? So instead of part 1, we have only 3 options. Part 2, we are moving to 4 options. And the number of items tested is 10. Okay, because it is an extended text, 250 to 300 words, okay, with 10 items removed. Okay, with 4 possible options, multiple for each item. Okay, we are, as you can see, the level gradually gets tougher. So that's how they arrange the paper for CEFR SPM. Okay. Okay, so how are you going to improve pupils' reading comprehension for part 2? Okay, first, ask the student to skim read the text first. Okay, skim read meaning that you don't have to exactly know word by word of the words. Just read them in one breeze, like to get to know the topic and to get the general meaning. Okay, you do not need to know any of the individual words that you probably do not know the meaning of. Okay, just skim first, right? Number 2, try to predict some of the answers as you read. Okay, of course, when we read, we will try to predict, right? And number 3, read the beginning of the text and look at the example that has been completed already. Okay, because normally they will have example that has been completed, so that should be a good guidance for your students to start answering for part 2. Okay. For number 4, work through the 10 questions, trying to choose the correct word to fill each gap. Okay, so you need to work one by one lah. Okay. Use the words on either side of the gap to help. Remember, it may be necessary to read the whole sentence before deciding. Again, when you are trying to fill in gaps, sentences before, sentences after plays a very big part. Do not encourage your students to rush in finding the answers. I know that some of them, the very good ones, they will already write the correct answer as they read it for the first time, but they can get it wrong because for CEFR, KSSM, SPM paper, they are actually looking for accuracy. Okay, so it's easy for students, not just for the weak ones, for the strong ones to make mistakes too. So please, when you are teaching your students, especially if you're SPM teachers, you know this already. You need to look back at the sentence before and sentence after in order to make sure that you choose the right answer. Okay? Right. Number 5, after choosing the word you think is correct, check the other words to be sure that they are wrong. Okay, so after you think that you chose the correct one, try to put the ones that are not selected in the same place so that you can know whether you have answered the correct question. Okay, next one. Having finished the task, read it one more with the answers for a final check. So after you are done, if you're happy with the answers, try to read all the passage in one go to make sure that it doesn't sound wrong. When it does sound wrong, it actually does something wrong there. Okay, you did something wrong there. So it's very important to you visit and revisit the passage even after answering the questions. Very important. And number 7, read the last question, then read the text quickly again. Answer the last question and also check your answer to the first question. Okay, so meaning to say you have to do one by one for part 2. Okay, especially if you are very used to teaching SPM and this is something that's not quite foreign to us. You can perhaps use this technique for your struggling students, the step-by-step technique. Because sometimes the struggling students, they need things to be done in small chunks rather than in a bigger chunk so that it's manageable for them. Okay. Okay, so let's look at this small excerpt. I'm not going to explain the whole text for the whole 10 gaps that we have here. Okay, so this is taken from the buku format baru. Okay, so right, let's look at 0 there. Okay, we need to look at the example given first. Okay, or perhaps we need to skim the text first. Okay, let's read the text together. Right, the pangolin, often referred to as an anteater, is an animal usually found in Asia. It is sometimes mistaken to be a reptile. It is in fact a mammal. Perhaps the most surprising and disappointing about pangolin is that it is the world's most traded animal. Some estimates that sales of pangolins now account up to 20% of the entire wildlife black market. The demand for pangolins comes mostly from China, where pangolin scales are thought to be for many health problems, yet there is no evidence to support this. Okay, so let's look at number 9. Right, it's a gap here, it's a blank here. It is sometimes mistaken to be a reptile. It is in fact a mammal. So as you can see that the statement here, because there's no because the previous sentence is already ended there, so we only have the after sentence. Okay, so as you can see there, the sentence that it is showing contrast. Okay, because people thought that it was a reptile, but it's actually a mammal. So that was the question 9. Let's look at question 10. Perhaps the most surprising and disappointing about the pangolin is that it is the world's most traded animal. Okay, some estimates. Okay, so right, I think that in order to fight our boredom. Okay, let's try answer 9 and 10. Okay, teachers, 9. What is the correct answer for number 9, teachers? What do you think is the correct answer for number 9? Is it if, despite, since, or although? A, B, C, or D? You can share your answer in the chat section, or you can just say it out.
Although. Although.
Okay, one of you mentioned although. How about the others?
Although.
All right. All right.
Hi, teacher.
Okay, so most of you answered although. How about number 10? What's the answer for number 10?
Fact, teacher.
Okay. We have a designated student here.
Yes.
Thank you. It's a fact. Okay. Right, so that's that. And then some estimates. Okay, what's the answer for number 11 then? Number 11, what do you think is the most suitable for number 11?
Suggest B.
Okay, and last one, thought to be a what? Cure, factor, symptom, or prevention?
A. Kiao.
Okay, way to take one for the team. All right.
I agree, teacher.
I agree, teacher.
Okay. All right.
Me
Thank you.
too.
Thank you for your response. Feels like a classroom. Okay. All right. So let's look at if that's the correct one. All right. So far, you guys have been a good student. So when you are explaining to your students, okay, teacher, why not despite? Because despite has quite the same function as showing contrast. Okay. So we normally say it's more suitable because it sounds better that way, right? That's what we always tell our students. But for despite, why is it not suitable is that it is placed in front of a noun or pronoun. Okay, so if let's say it here is, if this is a pronoun or noun, then you need to use despite. However, it is not. So you need to use although. Okay, and number 10, it is a fact, because some students can sometimes even use the word information there. The distractor here is the information. So if your student asks you, why is it not information? Why is it a fact? Because information, it is something that you can't verify. A fact is something that is true and can be verified. Why not news, teacher? Because news is something that new, then it's not being fact checked yet. Okay, so that's why the answer is fact for number 10. Right. For number 11, suggest. Okay, the answer is suggest. Again, because when we are talking about data, the most suitable word to go with it is suggest. Again, this is quite tricky for our 17-year-old students because it's very difficult to tell whether it is normally either they sometimes suggest or perhaps advise or perhaps propose. So you need to tell them when we are dealing with data, it is better to use suggest. It is accurate to use suggest because data, they cannot propose anything. Data cannot advise you on anything. Only interpretation of data that can actually advise or propose something to you. So data can only suggest. And last one, because the sentence is for many health problems, right? So the answer is A, good for health. And the answer is cure. Okay, right. So let's move on to the next slide. Okay, now we're moving on to part 3. Okay, I'm trying to breeze this through as quickly as possible because reading is something that is not that boring compared to writing. Okay, reading and use of English, we have part 3. This is something very familiar with you, only 8 items, but the text is longer. So in my opinion, it can be intimidating for students because this is very long. So please, when you're teaching your students, try to, perhaps for the weaker ones, perhaps try to get them into chunks, different parts of text first. Attack perhaps 200 words first and then move on to another 200 with the questions rather than give them one whole text for the first time. It'll be very scary for them. Okay, so bear that in mind when you're teaching your students for part 3. Okay, I'm going to skim this through. So for part 3, you need to ask students to read the instructions. Okay, again, skim first. And then when you're skimming, try to find out the topic, writer's purpose, and general meaning. So how do we do that? Okay, so we ask ourselves, who is the text about? Okay, I mean, what is the main character for this text? Okay, who wrote the text? Who's the writer? Who's the author? And what is the text about? So if you can answer these 3 things, meaning that you have a general understanding of the text. Okay, after that, you read the first question, and then you think about which option might be the right one and which options are wrong. And then read the text again more carefully. And number 5, read the questions one by one and answer them one by one by referring back to the text. Okay. Number 6, read the last question and then read the text quickly again. answer the last question and also check answer to the first question, right? Okay, let me just show you a little bit of.
Can I ask a question? Excuse me, sorry.
Sure, yeah.
So, Atika, is it advisable if we tell the students, the old school method where we ask the students to read the question first before reading the text itself, During the old time, the old method of SPM, you used to tell our students to read the question first. Is it advisable to do that?
Yes, I've tested it out with my students. That is something that you can do as well. I mean, if that's the kind of repertoire that you're comfortable with, you can do that for part 3 as well. Because I think that when they read the questions first, they know what to look for, right? So that is okay for you to do in class 4, part 3. Okay, I'm just going to show you example of the questions first.
Thank you.
Okay, so this is, I'm going to breeze through this because you already know what kind of questions that they will ask for part 3. Okay, so this is, so normally like Sir mentioned just now, okay, you go to the questions first. Okay, in paragraph 1, why does the writer use the phrase not a bed of roses? Okay, so I haven't shown you the text yet, so we are going to do this chunk by chunk. Okay, so you can do this with your weaker students. Perhaps do it together one by one. Do not just give the text and expect them to answer. Okay, so A, he realized that a teacher's job is not easy. B, he felt that a teacher's job was not challenging enough. And C, he thought that being a teacher would be more relaxing. And D, he was afraid that his teaching job would take up a long time. Okay, so let's look at where the answer would be. Okay, so the phrase is here. Becoming a teacher was definitely not bed of roses. It was all a far cry from my fondest childhood memory of instructing my cousins to write down words which I had written on a portable whiteboard. Okay. Yet I had dreamed of being a teacher since I was 6 years old. So as the students found those phrases, okay, so they can look back at the question again, right? So the clue was instructing my cousins to write down words which I had written on a portable whiteboard. So that sentences show that he used to think that teacher's job is easy. So the answer is A. He realized that a teacher's job is not easy. Okay, right. I'm just going to go through another question, and this question I think is quite important. This is about writer's purpose because it's not quite addressed in the previous SPM format, I think, but it's quite prominent in CEFR. Okay, let me just find the question. Okay, so how do you help your student when they have question like, what is the purpose of the writer writing this article? So in this case, the students need to look at the bigger picture, like which one is the correct one? Which one is the correct purpose for writing this article? Okay, so if I'm teaching my students, I would ask them to look for, okay, because all these answers, they are there in the article. A, B, C, D, all these purposes are there in the article. But how do we find the purpose, which one ultimate purpose of this article? So if we look at A, okay, to share precious memories of his family, those are being discussed in paragraph 2 and 3. Paragraph 2 and 8. B, to recall how he almost gave up his career at first. That's paragraph 3, 4, and 6. C, to advise teachers on strategies that keep students in school. That will be paragraph 7. And D, to show why the children eventually succeeded in learning English, paragraph 7. So when you're teaching your students how to find the purpose of the text, make sure that they do this. Okay, for A, which part of in the write-up that talks about sharing precious memory. So it's going to be paragraph 2 and 8 and so on. So the student will choose which choice that shows the most that shows up the most in the article. And in this case, it's actually B. Okay, to recall how he almost gave up his career at first. So it's paragraph 3, 4, and 6. So that is how you should teach your students when it comes to trying to answer the purpose of the writer writing the article. Okay, so this is what we call a formulaic, like the kind of things that you can ask your students to do on their own, like even if we are not there with them. Okay, so provide them with these skills, recognizing the main idea for each paragraph so that it's easier for them to identify the writer's purpose. Okay. Right. If there's any questions, shoot them so that I can address them together with you. Right. Just share the tab again. Okay, so that's part 3. Okay, we are moving to part 4 already. All right, this is gap text. Again, quite a tricky section for our students. Even for PT3, they are struggling. I'm nervous for SPM as well. Okay, so for gap text, okay, we have 6 number of items. Okay, so this is shorter than the previous one, the part 3. Okay, but it's still quite extended text, 350 to 450 words. Okay, and they have 6 sentences being removed and placed in jumble order. So you have seen this in PT3. Okay. Okay. This is how you do it if you want to go step by step. Okay, read the entire passage first, and then read the sentences that have been pulled from the passage. 8 options to distractors. Please remind your students this, because sometimes pupils or even students tend to fall for the distractors because they are quite close. Okay, again, going back and forth of the text. The reference, the before sentence and the after sentence plays a very big part in this as well, not just for part 2. Okay, go back to the passage and read the sentences that come before and after the missing sentence. Okay, pay special attention to pronouns, tenses, adverbs, and subject-verb agreement when choosing a paragraph for the missing section. All right, in the missing paragraphs, identify contrasting statements. Okay, are there any statements that contrast with each other? Okay, go back to the passage and find sentences that indicate a transition is coming. So if they know that transition is coming, connectors should be there for that sentence. So that is one way to help your student. Number 6, after you've placed all of the sentences into the gaps, go back and read the passage to see if it sounds right. Okay, if not, locate which paragraphs sound out of place. Again, this is trial and error. What do you think? You need to train your students how to know when does the sound feels right and when does it sounds wrong. Okay, so that's quite an important skill too, and that can only be achieved with extensive reading as well as practice. Okay, you don't have to start with the first gap. Start with the easiest gap first and work your way up to the hardest one. So if they found that this gap is quite clear, so they can answer that gap first and then move on to the more difficult one after that. Okay. So this is a sample of the question. Okay. All right. I'm just going to go through the answers. Okay. Account for future leaders. Being a school prefect, I often have to help other students to provide them with an example to follow. I have to be their role model. Last month, for the first time, my school selected me to attend a leadership camp. Unsure of what to expect initially, I left with a real feeling of achievement at the end of the camp. I now know what it takes to be a good leader. All right, so let's look at 27. Okay, for example, during the Speak Easy activity, we were encouraged to reveal our secrets and innermost feelings. To our horror, the facilitators made it compulsory for everyone to participate. And then the next sentence is, we had no choice but to build up our courage and speak up. This set the tone for future activities. Okay, so for 27, the answer is D. Okay, everyone who attended noticed a huge change in I was pushed out of my comfort zone because, to our horror, the facilitators made it compulsory for everyone to participate. So the answer is D. I was pushed out of my comfort zone. And same goes with the others. Okay, the hands-on activity might taught me how to deal with these sorts of difficult situations. So now I am more confident about addressing problems of behavior with the junior students. 29, the answer is A. The activity that had the most impact on me dealt with learning not to judge others based on looks or position. 29, the answer is A. We should learn to the views and ideas of all people. Number 13, there were also other enjoyable experiences during my short stint in the camp. I really need to focus on all the positives, but the truth was I was occasionally got homesick. Okay, so 31, the answer is E. We learned about time management and how to handle stress effectively. This would be an advantage for us to not only now, but when we step into the working world. And lastly, the leadership camp is a great way to gain skills necessary for dealing with real life situations. Everyone who attended noticed a huge change in how they behave and treat people. Okay, so the techniques, if you have been using special techniques for PT3, you can use that for this one as well. But again, the text is going to be longer, so be mindful when you are teaching your students this part. Okay. So reading and use of English part 5. This is matching and information transfer, the last part of reading a paper. Okay, only 8 questions. So total word count of no more than 370 words, quite long. But this one is quite different because compared to part 3 is all talking about the same thing. But for part 5, they have different types of content in those 370 words. Later I'll show you. So tasks could include completion of notes, diagrams, matching tasks, and short answer questions. Okay, so part 5, you need to skim read first. Okay, who the people are and what they want to get the general idea. Skim read the options. Okay, read the question, the descriptions of different people in detail, and underline the things that they want or like. Because it sometimes could be about hobby. It sometimes could be about jobs. It could be about a lot of different things. So if you can match descriptions to the people, and perhaps students can paraphrase or perhaps understand generally what they are, they should be safe. Okay. Think of words that mean the same or the opposite in the words that you have underlined. All right. Number 4, read the options. They are the text in detail and underline the important information there that relates to or matches the information of the questions. And lastly, number 5, read the questions and match what you have underlined in the questions to what you have underlined in options. Okay. And lastly, choose the correct options for the text. Okay, let me just show you how it looked like. Okay, this is how it looked like for, I think the previous SPM is moving towards this already, right? But let me, this is the one that I've mentioned just now. For 33 to 36, it's normally about main idea. Okay, so in this case, the paragraph that it is referring to is A, B, C, D, E, and F. Okay, so you need to make your students realize this when they are encountered with this question. I'm not talking about students who are good, they know how to survive already, but students who are struggling, you need to tell them. Like when they say paragraph, they would probably think, oh, this is 1 paragraph, 2 paragraph, 3 paragraph, 4th paragraph, 5th paragraph, and 6th paragraph. So if they are not reading the instruction here, paragraph A to an F, they would probably at loss, like where should they find the answer? Okay. So 33 to 36 is the main idea, and 37 to 40 is where I say is even the grammar plays a very important role here. Okay. Okay. Right. We are moving forward to some practical activities to try in the classroom. So in order to support reading paper in terms of getting your students be able to answer reading paper quite smoothly. This is, you can do with your student a note, a sign, or a message. Okay, first things that you can do here is that you can give each learner a card with a note, a sign, or a message on it, right? And then tell them to answer the following question. Okay, what type of text? Is it an advertisement? Is it a personal message? Is it an email? Okay, and then who is it for? And where would you see it? Right. So if it is an advertisement, perhaps where would they see it? Is it on the billboard, or is it in just a bulletin board? Okay, then who is it for? The target audience. And then, ask them to write the text using their own words. Okay, perhaps try to rephrase the text. Number 3, collect in all the cards and put them up on the board, and then ask if you can't find any boards here, you always have Jamboard or perhaps Wakelet or Padlet or any lists that you know, and then put them virtually. Okay, and ask learners to talk about the card they had using the questions given as a guide. And then the rest of the class guesses which card is being described. Okay, so this is reading for detail and understanding the meaning of text in signs, notices, and messages. Okay. Another activity that you can do is this is true or false. Okay. So you prepare a true or false statement. Okay. For example, this trip is for people who like peace and quiet. Many different activities are organized on board. Okay. So after that, you give them a text with a number of words blanked out. Okay. So this is what blanked out lah. Okay. They decide if the statements are true or false after reading the text. So they just read the text with the blank spaces there. Okay. The Arctic is one of the few places in the world where you can see nature at its and most beautiful. Join our ship, the Northern Star, from 2 to 18 July for a 17-day to the Arctic. During the voyage, you are able to relax and get away from it all. There are no parties or film shows to attend, quizzes to enter, or entertainers to watch. Okay. So after they have read this paragraph, you ask them back and discuss with their partners whether they needed the blanks outward. So after they read this paragraph, they can look back at the true-false question. Okay, so teachers, this trip is true. This trip is for people who like peace and quiet. True or false, teachers? Is it true or false for this one? This trip is for people who like peace and quiet, based on this paragraph. True or false? Is it true or false?
True.
True.
Maybe.
Very good. Okay. The first one is true, and the second one is definitely false because there are no parties or film shows. Okay, so after they have answered this question, okay, you ask them back again. Even with these blanked out words, it is possible to understand the text. So this is an exercise, especially for what we call perfectionists or even a little bit of an OCD students, whereby they need to have control or they need to know every single individual words that is presented to them by ignoring the words you don't know. Because sometimes it is just possible to understand the whole text without having all those words that you don't know, right? And this is also a scanning practice. Okay. And I think this is the last activity that I can suggest for you for reading. Okay. Preposition, connectives, pronouns. Okay, choose a text and blank out some of the preposition, connectives, and pronouns. And then you can divide the class into 3 groups because we have Google breakout rooms already. We can do this already. Give one group the text and ask them to fill in all the prepositions. Okay, second group, fill all the connectives, and third group, all the pronouns. Okay, when they have finished their task, regroup the learners into groups of 3 with 1 learner in each group. So they can test each other with words that should go in the gaps. Okay, so this one is quite important for part 2 for the grammar part. So skill being tested here is, of course, reading for detail. Okay, before I move on to writing, any questions when it comes to reading paper 1? Any questions?
Atika, can I ask a question?
Sure.
Okay, for part 5, is it necessarily, the layout is like what we see in most of the questions that is in the workbook. For example, question number 33 and 36 is asking about paragraph, and then 37 to 40 is like completing text. Is the layout going to be like this? Or because in previous SPM, we have sometimes labeling and things like that?
As of now, I couldn't say for sure what LPM has in store for us because it has always been a mystery, even to any of us. But what I can tell you is that for the first SPM, for the 2021, this is something that you could expect for your SPM reading paper for this part 5. Okay. I think it's quite risky to just follow all this, perhaps all this layout. But I think for the first SPM, they will definitely follow this layout. Okay, it could be paragraph, it could be jobs and other things as well. So paragraph is, I think, the most basic item that they could ask. They could ask other things as well. But again, they're asking main idea. Okay, Cikgu? Azia?
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Tika. Okay. So we're going back to part 2, the closed passage. Okay, we have that. Remember in the old SPM, right? Okay. So if you look at the old SPM, where for the part 2 for the closed passage, normally the composition between vocabulary and grammar questions mostly evens. Ada 3 grammar for vocab or 4 grammar 3 vocabs. So is there any specific allocation whether it's going to be most vocab or mostly on grammar? Because I've been through quite a few sample questions that I get from workbook and from other states punya what they call as a module. Some suggest that I feel idea that there might be more towards vocab instead of grammar. Is there any specific information on that? Thank you.
There's no, like, as of now. Again, SPM is such a big mystery to any of us. But as you can see even from the buku format baru that they have supplied us last year, as you can see for this closed text, they are quite heavily on vocabulary. However, they could also test very simple grammar. For instance, in that case, the numbers, the 0 there, it could be prepositions, and sometimes it could be other things as well. And sometimes it's very difficult to differentiate between grammar and vocabulary because those things can be intertwined. So I think the beauty of CEFR is that they would want us to equip the students with adequate skills for grammar and vocabulary equally. So in order for them to be able to answer the questions, they need to have the knowledge. Okay, so if they have the knowledge, whatever questions that has been presented to them, inshallah they can answer. Okay, so they would not like to be as formulaic as as our brother of KBSM previously. Okay. Thank you, sir. Any other questions?
Okay, thank you.
If there's no questions, I think I can move on to writing, because it's already 3:47. And no other questions, eh? Okay, I think we can move on to writing part already. Let me just share the screen for writing. Let me just mention. Okay, so this is for writing. Okay. So there are 3 parts of the questions in 90 minutes. Okay, part 1, we have short essay, 80 words. It could be a message or email, and they have a very specific task to follow. Okay, 90 minutes is 1.5 hours. All right. Part 2, factual essay, it's 125 to 150 words, specific prompts to follow. Okay, part 1 and part 2, I think this is quite similar with what we have in PT3. Okay, I think the star of the paper for writing is the part 3. Okay, it is an essay of a genre. So students are expected to write 200 to 250 words, and it follows a specific genre. It could be a story, a review. A review could be a film review, or sometimes a place or destination review. It could be a report, article, or formal letter. Okay, but so far, when I looked through all the exercise books, or even modules from other places, for part 3, it's quite heavily on story review and article. Report and formal letter, not so much. But I think it's wise for us to expose our students to all of this genre so that they are better prepared for SPM. Because we never know what kind of questions that the LPM will decide to give us for this, for this first time SPM CFR paper. Okay. So this is for aspects that I think most of you are well aware of, the content. Okay, did you write what you were asked to write? Okay, this is very important. Ask students to ask themselves, did they able to write what they were asked to write? And number 2, communicative achievement, was your writing too formal, too informal, or just right? Number 3, organization, did you link paragraphs and sentences? Is there a logical flow from start to finish? And number 4, language, did you show off your sparkling vocabulary or did you use basic words? Okay, did you make lots of grammar and spelling mistakes? All right, so these are the kind of questions that we can provide to our students when they are doing what we call self-checking. So when after they have finished writing, they perhaps can ask themselves all these questions in order to get them to better marks for writing. Okay, let's move on to a short essay, 80 words. Okay, you received an email from your friend Amy, who has just moved to your hometown. Okay, so the school holiday is finally here. Let's go for a picnic with our friends. Where shall we go and what can we do there? What should we bring? I'll be waiting for a reply. Bye. Okay, so that is the kind of question for short essay. I think for question 1, for part 1, most of our students would not have problems in answering that because again, I've mentioned that this is something that they have seen during PT3. So this is just an extension of what they have done in PT3 and perhaps do it better for SPM. Okay, right. So this is all these samples are took from the training materials that that all of us did last year. So this is an example of a good content marks here. Okay, hi Amy, I'm so glad that you have brought this up as I had nothing planned for the holidays. I'm totally excited and I know just the place for our picnic. It will be at Central Park and just beside East Road. We could also play ball there as the park is huge. Don't forget to bring an extra mat to place our foods on just in case I lost mine. Don't worry about the supplies, I can handle them, though you could bring some snacks if you would like to. The more, the better. I was also thinking that we could have Jack and David come. It will be more fun with them around. All right, to update me if something comes up, bye. Okay, so the content here is 5 because all of these questions or prompts or even elements have been satisfied. Okay, where the person mentioned about picnic at the Central Park. And then what can we do there, meaning activities. Okay, so perhaps they want to, they mentioned play ball there. Okay, bring extra mat to place our foods. Okay, and okay, to have activities. So it's mentioned there. And last one, what should we bring? Okay, it's mentioned about snacks and supplies, and basically it satisfies all the items that's mentioned there. Okay, so content is 5. The CA is also 5 because, okay, communicative achievement is where for part 1, it's basically the tone of your email, of your informal email. So for informal email, to get a communicative achievement of 5 for informal email, the email has to sound informal. That's very important. Not informal to the point of it's being rude or even inappropriate, but it's a tone where everything sounds very casual between two friends. So that's what you are asking. You should be asking your students to aim for part 1. Okay. So as you can see there, the phrases being used here. I know just the place for our picnic. We could also play. Okay. And the organization is also 5, as you can see there. Although it's not using all those obvious connectors like besides, furthermore, moreover, all those connectors. right? This candidate uses what we call anaphoric and cataphoric references quite well. Okay, so in this case, she or he uses it. Okay, so it here in this case, it is talking about Central Park lah. Okay, and then I can handle them. So this is cataphoric references, meaning them means supplies. Okay, looking back at the subject that has been discussed. And also, all right, do update me. Okay, all right, do update me, meaning do update me if something comes up, meaning that it refers to the act of updating her should something came out. Okay, so again, it doesn't have to be obvious connectors as long as your students manage to some sort of give a reference to whatever she or he was saying, then they're okay. Okay, that is part 1. And also, language is 5 because as you can see, there are quite a number of errors, but it's just first draft. It's like mat here, the spelling of mat. It's just MAT. It should be just that, but it's extra T there, but it's fine. It's this is what we call the first draft slip. We can just give this student a 5 because it's the language is quite good and consistent. Okay. So again, for language marks, you can see that the use of words like holidays, supplies, snacks, and causes, what we call causes sentences like it will be more fun, like relative references of sentences. Okay, so that's how you get a 5 mark for language for part 1. Okay, all right, let's look at the next. Let's look at the next example. Okay, the content is 5. Okay, it's mentioned there Sungai Gabai waterfall. Okay, this is the where. I think that can be a perfect place for us because there have been beautiful nature and fresh environment. Okay, Sungai Gabai waterfall also suitable for our picnic because at there we can do a barbecue time activity. Okay, item number 2 is satisfied. I'm so excited for that. You should bring lots of snack and radio for us. Item number 3 is also satisfied. So content is 5. Okay, the CA is 4 because although that there's no like what we call inappropriate tone for this email, the idea of the casualness between 2 friends is not quite clear here. Okay, so but the phrases that help these students is that I think there can be a perfect place to us and fresh environment. That shows quite a significant indicator of the tone of this email, almost appropriate, meaning to say that it is almost a perfect tone for this email. And for the organization here, the use of word because and Sungai Gabai waterfall also suitable for our picnic because. Okay, so again, the use of because is quite repetitive. Okay, because it's quite a number. It's like 2 because there, and then I'm so excited for that. Although that can be assumed or that can be looked back at the barbecue time where he or she is referring to that. But it's quite ambiguous. So there are ways of making things clearer instead of saying, I'm so excited for that. So the organization here is 3. Okay. And the language here is 3 as well. Okay. The use of the phrases of beautiful nature and barbecue is very befitting to the script here. And also snack. But then there are also quite glaring mistakes. For example, I've been received your email. Those is quite glaring. And then would to join you. Okay, so those should be what we call a simple structure, but it's not executed well. Okay, so in this case, for us, enjoy the moments. In this case, the language is 3. Right, let's move on to the next script. Okay. Hi Amy, 1 week ago I received an email from you about plan to have a picnic with our friends in school holiday. I'm very excited with your invited. We can do a lot of things in there like barbecue, fishing, and any more. Okay, we should bring a thing for cooking. Okay, I've received a complaint that you guys can't hear me. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Thank you.
We can hear you.
All right, thank you.
Yes, can.
Okay.
Yes, can hear her.
Right, thank you. So moving on to the sample here. Okay. We should bring a thing for cooking, our clothes, and some of interesting things before we play together like chess. We should tell to our parents for her decided we can go or not. Thank you for your invited. I hope we can go have a best picnic later. Okay, so LPM gave this script a 3. Can the teachers tell me why is it a 3, teachers? Why do you think it's a 3? Can anyone share their thoughts on this one? It's not 5. Why?
Not fully answer the question requirement.
Yeah, which item, Azhar?
Mana soalannya tadi ya?
The question, wait. Question is asking where, what activity and what
to bring.
Ah,
What should they bring? Yes.
So where?
So if,
Where, what, when.
so which one that the candidate did not satisfy? Is it where, what, or activities?
I think where the place?
Yeah, very good. It's actually the place. Yeah,
The place.
The place is not mentioned there.
Not mentioned there.
So again, it's only one item that this candidate did not satisfy, but the content point has gone down to 3. Okay, so again, for content marks, they are very important, especially for our struggling students, because those content point is where that they can score the most. I mean, if you're talking about struggling students. So please have your students read the questions carefully, ask them to answer the all the questions, and then try to better the writing as they go along. Okay, focus on the content point first. And after they manage to do that, then they can look at other elements as well.
Yes, true.
Yeah. Right. So the communicative achievement is 4. Okay. Again, because it didn't really sound very casual compared to the first script. So the use of "I'm very excited with," we can do a lot of things. I hope we can go have a picnic, a best picnic later. Okay, those are the evidence why this candidate get a 4. Organization is here. Our clothes and some of interesting things for we play together. Okay, so organization here means that we should bring a thing for cooking, our clothes, and some of the interesting things that we play together like chess. So the use of what we call the conjunctions and also for the preposition for, it shows that there has some sense of organization there. And the language is 3 because again, as you can see, it's quite clumsy. The language is quite clumsy. I'm very excited. So the use of words like barbecue, interesting. Okay. And also this phrase, I received an email from you about plan to have picnic with our friends. And we should tell our parents for her decided we can go or not. So this is errors. This is an error. So the language, the awarded marks for language is 3. Okay, so we are moving on to part 2 already. Part 2 is an essay. It's 125 to 150 words. Okay, I think just a quick side note for part 1, because part 1 is normally either a person asking for an advice, asking for an idea. So like for part 1 in PT3, we always ask students to perhaps use modal verbs like if giving advice, for example, you should go to your parents when you are in trouble, etc. So you should, you must, you could. Okay, so but for SPM, if your students are able, and I think most of them quite able to, you can introduce them to other expressions of giving advice. For example, if I were you, I would. Okay, so that could have quite a great impression on the markers when they look at your students' paper. It shows the maturity from being able to use the structure like you should, you must into something more complex, like if I were you, I would, right? So you can have that in mind when you are teaching the good students. Okay. All right. For part 2, your class has been discussing about how they spend their money, and your teacher has asked you to write an essay about what you would spend your money on. Okay, so in your essay, you should write about what would you like to buy, reasons for your choice, and where do you usually buy these things. Okay, write your essay using all the notes and giving reasons for your point of view. Okay, let's look at the script. We all need money in order to buy something that we like. Nothing is free in this world. Therefore, when we have money, we need to use it wisely. If it is spent on the things that we don't need, we will waste our money. There are a lot of good and worthy things you can buy. For example, food, clothes, and books. Okay. As for me, I have money. I would like to buy a guitar. An acoustic guitar has been in my wish list since I started watching song covers on YouTube. I've been dreaming on playing it, but I haven't had enough money to purchase it. The reason why I want to buy a guitar is because I love music. I knew how to play the piano before, but I want to learn something new. It would be amazing if I get to play more than one instrument. Moreover, I want to learn how to play the guitar by myself. I can do that by watching tutorials on YouTube. In that way, I don't have to waste money on guitar lessons. I usually buy my instruments at this music shop called Yamaha. They have good quality instruments, so their price is expensive. However, it is worth it because it's better than low quality instruments. In a nutshell, I'd spend my money on guitar because that's what I need to play a new instrument. They said money can't buy you happiness, but it can surely help me achieve my goals. So the content is 5, meaning to say the students managed to talk about what he would like to buy, his reasons for his choice, and where could he buy all these things. Okay, so all of them are satisfied. Content point is 5. The communicative achievement is also 5 because this is an essay, what we call semi-formal essay. So all the words, all the phrases used are appropriate to this tone of essay. As you can see there, the word nothing is free in this world because we're talking about money, right? So that expression is quite befitting, quite suitable. And the reasons why I want to buy a guitar is because, okay, it would be amazing. Okay, this kind of structures shows a right tone for the essay. Okay, so for organization, you can see there the use of therefore when we have money, for example. Moreover, in that way, I don't have to waste money on guitar lessons. As for the language, as you can see there, the word purchase, the word reasons, the word instruments, the word spend. Okay? And we need to use it wisely, the structure of the sentences there. As for me, if I have money, I can do that by watching tutorials on YouTube. Okay, guitar has been in my wish list. All right, so those are the reasons why this script is a perfect 20. Okay, so as you can see that the structure, there are a mixture of sentence structures as you can see in the script. So if you can train your students, or even if you can prepare your students to have such variety in sentence structure, especially for part 2, is very important. So a very healthy mixture of simple, compound, and complex sentences would make a good essay for part 2. Okay, so you know, expose them with relative clauses, expose them with all those structures that can make them get better marks for language. Okay. Okay, so for this one, all right, the reason why you must to save money. All right, so the content is only 3. Again, there is an item that is not being satisfied here. Okay, the item is, I think the reasons why this person is buying something. Okay, let's look at the the script. The reason why you must to save your money, okay, because we can buy anything with the money. Money can make you survive when you to buy a thing that you must have. Okay, I would like to buy a pair of shoes. Again, mention what does this person want to buy, because outside there have many logo or any brand that make me so interested about that. The design about any type of shoes has a unique design and the quality is not the same. I usually buy this thing at shop or I search at online shopper. It's have a different price between buy at the shop and buy at the online. Okay, so there's no specific reason why this person wanted to buy these shoes. So that's why the content is history, because it's mentioned that what he wanted to buy, shoes, and wanted to buy at the shop or online shop. So but there's no specific reason why is this shoes is going to be bought. It's mentioned about design, the design about any type of shoes that has unique design. But there's the way that this candidate mentioned about design as reasons is not quite right. Perhaps he could talk about what kind of design that he wanted to get and why, and that could be the reason, and he or she could probably get a 5 based on that reason. Okay. Communicative achievement is 3. Okay, so as you can see there are quite a number of errors. So when you have quite a number of errors, it will definitely affect your communicative achievement. Okay, so when we say that CFR, we can just mark students based on content, because it's like it's quite a fair way of marking. You have content, communicative achievement, language, and organization. But be mindful that when a student have problem with language, it will definitely affect their communicative achievement marks. Okay, please be mindful of that. And organization, as you can see there, the use of because, about, it's quite simple about that. This thing is not very clear, although we know what this person is trying to say, but it's not very clear and accurate. Okay, and the language is 2. Okay, I would like to buy a pair of shoes. Outside there are any logo make me so interested. It's not just stringing, it's also very difficult to follow the sentences. Okay, right, for part 2, I think this is quite useful for your students. Okay, I mean, you can screenshot this or even I can share you the presentation files to Panzarit later to be shared with you. But I think this one is quite useful for your student for part 2. Okay, so there are phrases for giving opinion. In my opinion, I personally feel that, I firmly believe that, I partly or fully agree that. Or when they are trying to structure and sequence their ideas, they can say firstly, secondly, thirdly, and so on. And also when they want to add ideas, they can try, besides moreover, furthermore, what is more, they can use in addition to this, another reason why, and etc. For contrasting ideas, you can use however, although, and explaining its consequently and as a result. Okay. So this is the suggested structure that I normally teach my students. For paragraph 1, I would ask them to introduce the topic using general statement and answer the first prompt. Okay. Paragraph 2, give reason. First reason for the first prompt, and then provide specific justification for opinion using examples. Paragraph 3, give second reason for the first prompt, and then use justification, example, opinion based on your second reason. Paragraph 4, third reason to support your answer, and then quick mention of prompt 3. Okay, provide prompt 3 meaning normally they would ask, how would you do it, or where can you buy this thing? So it's normally a mere mention. So you can just have a quick mention of it in paragraph 4, and after that, you can provide specific justifications of your opinion and using examples if necessary. And paragraph 5, they can summarize their ideas and repeat answer for prompt 1 and different words to provide a strong conclusion. For paragraph 5, I think that if your students are able to paraphrase what they say in paragraph 1 succinctly, this should be helpful in getting them better marks for part 2. Okay. Right. Part 2 done. Any questions so far? It's already 4:15.
Can you check the chat box?
the chat box. Okay, let me just check the chat box first. Yeah, when as I mentioned that, okay, the one that we mentioned about part 2 just now, let's say the student wants to buy shoes, he or she could just write, I buy it from the shoe store. It is acceptable as well. Okay, so it doesn't have to be a very complicated way of saying things. Like if they just mere mention all the items that it's been, all the prompts that has been laid out, it is acceptable for students too. Okay, but it would be better if you try to write the specific name of the shop. Yes, if it's specific, then it's better lah. Okay. Right. So there's no other questions. I think we can move on to the next part. Okay. All right. So after part 2, it's normally for part 3 lah. Part 3 is 3 questions. Student choose one. Please remind your students that do not have them answer all the questions, because again, 1.5 hours for a writing paper is not that much of a time. Okay, so please make sure that they choose only one question for part 3. Okay, so normally the books that I have with me, they normally have for part 3 is articles. Okay, so you see this notice on the board outside the school library. Articles wanted, my school canteen. What other types of food would you like to be served, and what special facilities should your canteen have, and how can you improve your canteen? Right, write us an article answering these questions. The best article will be displayed on the school magazine. Okay, so the first choice is an article. Right, so this is an example of a script. Okay, so when you have, when you have this kind of, just change the setting first, I'm sorry. Okay. Okay, when you have when you're teaching article to students, okay, make sure that they do not forget to have the title and also by who. Okay, right, so please remind your students this when they are writing an article. It's very important. Okay, the school canteen is a place where every students gather together to buy their food during recess time. The school canteen is an important part of the school. It is where students fill their empty stomach after hours of learning in the classroom. The school canteen is visited every school day, so it is important to upgrade a quality canteen at the school premise. The question is how to provide a good quality canteen. All right, so the question asks what are the types of food, what special facilities, and how can you improve your canteen? Okay, so this candidate straight away start with food. The school canteen should serve a well-balanced meal for the students. This is because students need to maintain a healthy diet. If the canteen serves junk food such as fries, hot dogs, and burgers, students will make it a habit to eat junk food every day of school. Junk food is not healthy and shouldn't be eaten for 5 consecutive days. So the third paragraph mentioning about special facilities. So this person wanted a separated sections for each ages. And last prompt is how can you improve the canteen? This candidate mentioned about providing meals in trays, and students should bring their own containers to put the food instead of using plastic. Okay, so the content is 5 because this candidate managed to satisfy all the prompts that is provided to him or her. Okay, the communicative achievement is also a 5 because the tone, the use of the vocabulary, the structure that is being used, the formality of the language matches the genre of an article. So you can see there the phrases like the school canteen is an important part of the school. The school canteen should serve a well-balanced meal for the students. Okay, so it's very appropriate for this genre. So for organization, let's look at the organization used. The school canteen is visited every school day. Firstly, I would like to start with the food. Junk food is not healthy and shouldn't be eaten for 5 consecutive days. Lastly, the canteen can improve. And the language is 5. As you can see, it's quite flawless. the errors and the errors are not quite there, and the consistency is maintained. Okay. The vocabulary being used here is upgrade, importance, providing, containers. Okay. So that is one of the examples of the good script for article. So I'm just going to go through two extremes here. That is the good one, the best, and this one is that has the lowest mark. Okay, so the content point here is 1. Okay, my school is do a school canteen, and I would like to join the participate. I would like to serve a drink water to all students. It would have many type of drink. Okay, so the content point here is 1. Because it's mentioned here that I would like to serve a drink water to all students, meaning to say that this candidate is trying to talk about how they could improve drinks or water, and that can be derived from what the candidate is trying to see. So instead of giving 0, LPM decided to give this candidate a 1. Okay. However, the communicative achievement is a 0 because then again it's just it's just 2 sentences, and it's very difficult to gauge the tone there. Organization is also 1. As you can see, the use of and there is being counted. So organization is 1, and would have is also counted, and the language is 1. Okay. Any questions or any input that needs to be shared? Anybody?
By the way, Atika, can we have a look at the medium script? I mean, most of our students are between there, isn't it?
Okay, I haven't prepared the medium script, but I can provide to you because I thought that if I go through all 3 stages, that it would be very difficult to finish in 4:30, and it's already 4:21. So,
madam, actually, also all schools has the booklet, the writing booklet from last year. Last year penataran, I give the KP masa tu yang join the penataran, semua ada dah. So I assume that all Form 5 teachers dah ada the examples of script given by the LPM. There are a few examples for good student, for intermediate, and for the weak student. So the teachers can study from there.
Assalamualaikum Atika.
Salam.
I hope it will help. Okay.
Assalamualaikum.
Salam.
Okay, I would like to ask regarding this CA and language. Okay, why is it 0? Because the language is 1.
Okay.
Because
sorry. Continue.
Okay, it's okay.
Azhar, do you want to help me out for this one?
Okay, it's 0 because kalau content tu actually we can sort it out a little. Like I would like to serve a drink water to all students. It match the one of the question requirement, right? So the student deserve to get 1. But for CA, the tone of this is not an article tone, kan?
Article to begin with.
Yes. So we
because
0.
Because just now you mentioned about when it comes to CA, something got to do with language as well, right?
CA is all about the tone, the way the essay is presented, whether it is sound like article, if the question is article.
So it has nothing got to do with language then?
No.
But you mentioned just now is something got to do with language.
Okay. It's definitely has relation. For example, if the tone is right, then the use of language is going to be right as well. For example, in this case, the tone here is, in this case, you are giving 0 because again that it is not an article to begin with. So there's no such thing as tone to begin with.
So to begin with, yes.
So the
0.
So the CA part is more on the tone.
Yes.
Yeah, yes.
But the language part here is given 1 because again, this candidate managed to use conjunction like and you would have. So
yes,
of
the
course you
simple,
can give 1 for this.
yes, the simplest language kan.
Yes.
That student got 5 for content, 0 for CA, 0 for O, 0 for L. So don't be surprised kan. It happens.
Okay, another question. Can we imply meaning?
Yes.
Can we imply to give them marks in terms of content? Let's say I don't know, probably they don't write it directly, but it seems that we try to imply, okay, actually this candidate is trying to say something like this. Yeah. So how can we imply?
For content.
Yep.
For content, it's mainly about whether they achieve the requirement or not. That's all.
Okay, so it must be directly stated. We cannot imply, is it?
Can you give example, Kak?
Wait. Okay, probably they don't mention specifically the name of the shop, but it is something got to do where. See, where actually it has been bought. So this is something that we imply, yeah.
The place lah, the place like they don't write the specific name of the shop like Adidas shop or Adidas boutique like that.
Yes.
But instead we buy I bought the shoe from the shoes shop. Correct.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, we can accept that.
No, not really. That is very direct. I mean, like there
From
are some weak students, you know. Some weak students actually we know actually she wanted to say that she wanted to say A, but we try to say probably on the surface, yes, we might see that it's not, all right. But when it comes to analyzing part, we see I think this person is trying to say see. So this is what we call imply lah. So are we allowed to imply their meaning?
I think we can because the question is where you buy the things kan. So it's acceptable.
So yeah. Okay.
So
Alright.
I buy the shoes in Batu Pahat ke I bought the shoes
Batu Pahat is
in Kota
direct.
Tinggi.
It's very direct.
Yeah.
Batu Pahat is very direct. But there are some cases, you know, because when it comes to weak students, they don't actually know how to deliver the content, you know. But it seems that she wanted to say A, but she wanted to say about the place, but she write it in her own way. So we imply that. Imply that. Actually this is the place that actually she has bought the shoes. See, yeah, because there are cases, you know, because there are cases when we know that actually that is the place she bought, but it didn't say it is not stated clearly, but we imply that actually that's the place. That's why I'm asking now, can we award for content if
as long as you know that there's a place?
Okay.
It's acceptable. Tapi kalau if dia tak mention apa-apa, tak boleh lah. Because it didn't answer the question where kan.
Okay. Alright. Okay. Thank you.
Because, okay. CEFR is very lenient. Don't worry. Okay.
Alright.
Okay.
Okay, I'm looking at the time now. It's 4:28. We're supposed to end at 4:30, and I have quite a lot to go on. So can I ask the organizer, should we continue tomorrow or?
Yes, correct. Carry forward tomorrow.
I'm asking the organizer.
On behalf.
Yes, Atika, you should do this. For writing it definitely will took longer time actually. Yes.
Yeah, I think we need to go more on this writing because especially this is a new thing for all of us, And we are
Yes.
so like 20 years of KBSM and something new. And as Aduni said earlier, is it implying something can be awarded, or is it that it has to be explicitly stated only then the marks can get the 4 and 5 marks? Or can we just straight away give them a 3 by right? They are trying hard to give that 5. So I think we still need to go on lah, Tika. I'm so sorry, but I'm still blur on this.
Wait, I want to go on. It's just it's already 4:30 and I can go on. I can continue this tomorrow. Like
Yeah, sure. I would say, of course, I think
Sure.
everyone agree with me.
Yes, I agree with
I
Aisha.
agree.
Go Aisha.
Okay, Madam Atika, I think can we proceed until at 5?
at 5. Okay.
5 p.m.
All right.
All right.
No, I cannot. I cannot. I have to.
Maybe we can start earlier
tomorrow.
Class.
Yeah.
Yes.
Fine. But we start with writing part 3. I think part 3 should go for. I mean, we should discuss further.
Yes.
I think we need to take a break. It's getting too tiring. I'm sleepy.
Yeah. Is
It's
it
not that
okay,
we-
Zarif, if we just
no
start?
hard feeling.
And I think listening should be shorter.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's continue tomorrow for writing.
Yeah.
Part
Tomorrow.
3.
Okay.
Part 3.
Part 3.
No,
Yeah.
no hard feeling, Atika. It's not because your presentation is me. Age problem.
Make the writing quite shorter.
Listening, we can do it shorter, I think, for tomorrow. But we start off with the writing part 3. I think that would be better. Kan? We still fresh, kan?
Okay, Puan Zarif, okay ke?
So I think
Okay.
tomorrow. So
Thank you, Zarif. Thank you.
listening we do it.
Yes. And I have suggestions. Why not we as teachers we help Atika by reading the writing booklet that we have. So maybe it's easier for us to understand. Kan there are many scripts there, right?
So tomorrow,
No, I
everyone...
disagree.
I think if Zarif allows, I think everyone would agree that we continue with part 3 tomorrow at 2:30.
Yes.
Then only we
Part
go
3
into
is very
listening.
important and the
Okay.
hardest part.
Yeah.
Okay, Puan
Yeah.
Zarif, I think that you can close it for us for today's session so that we can move on for tomorrow's session, I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, so we continue tomorrow. Thank you, Wanatika, for your sharing today. So teachers, we will meet again tomorrow at 2:30. Make sure all of you click the link early. Okay, so by 2:30 already has been prepared. So everyone is prepared for the meeting.
Zarif, I suggest that we start at 2 tomorrow.
2?
2.
Can? It's okay for me, but then Atika.
But that's a problem because our class finishes at 1:30. So we need for the break and then for solat and everything else.
But
So
we
2:30
can
will be
take
just fine. Yeah.
less time for listening lah.
Yeah.
More time for writing.
Yeah.
Okay, and 2:30 again tomorrow.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Zarif.
I'm
Thank you,
glad to see
Atika.
a lot of responses from you teachers. That means that you are not falling asleep.
No.
No, we're not falling asleep. Of course, we're not. But it's
Of course, we are not, madam.
We are not asleep.
So much life.
Able to asleep because every minute counts. Snap here and there.
Very beneficial, right? Precious, valuable knowledge we get today.
Yes.
Yes.
Although it would be more enjoyable if we can see each other face to face, right?
Correct.
Yes.
Yes.
More.
Yeah.
And makan, ya.
Hey, makan-makan together also kan?
Yes.
Makan aja kerjanya lah.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank
See you
you.
all
Thank you,
tomorrow.
Atika. Thank you, Madam Suryani.
Thank you,
Thank you.
everyone. Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you everyone.
See you guys tomorrow. Thank you, Zarif. Thank you, Suryani, Atika. Thanks.
Thank you. Welcome.
All right.
Huh?